Just pulling into Encinitas. We're about 2 hours outside of LA. Drove down here to meet up with my buddy Sonny Durante. I met Sonny in January at the Archangel Academy, and he's got a really inspiring story. Looking forward to catching up with him and sharing his story with all of you.
Good to see you, brother.
Well,
welcome. Two Canadians in California.
Yeah. Yeah. This Canadian needs to see more of California more often. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it was in Pasadena in January?
January, yeah.
Yeah, Archangel Academy. And man, I knew it was going to be a great event, but the people I've met through there and the relationships and just the opportunities that have come out of it, wow, I owe Giovanni a big hug and a high five. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So you now have been out here. You made your big, bold, spontaneous move, was it a year ago?
Yeah, so what was it? I've been here about a year and a half. So January 7th of last year, I flew in, planning on being here for a weekend and never left, essentially. So it's been about a year and a half that I've been here and took the plunge.
Okay, and when you were, so in Toronto, originally from Toronto, and at the time your career, video production, marketing agency, you were kind of full, one-stop, creative, marketing, video. What else?
Yeah, so like,
career?
Well, I've been a lifelong entrepreneur, born into a family of both sides being entrepreneurs. That's just in my blood, and it still is, and I love it. I get passionate when I think about that. And I went to Western, and I was actually originally from Milton, so just outside of Toronto, and went to Western, studied business and psychology, had no intention to go into film whatsoever, but a business that I was starting ended up, I had a disagreement with my partner, and we decided to dissolve that, and we moved past it. So some space opened up, and as space opened up, this opportunity to work in Toronto, the Toronto film scene came into my lap, and Toronto's great. It's the second, if I'm not mistaken, it's the second biggest production, film production place in the world, second to LA. That might have changed, but at that time, that's the stat I was working from. So I was able to get in as a production assistant really quickly, and then me and two other friends, we were young and hungry and smart, so we were able to grow pretty quickly inside of that. And then when I got to a place that I thought that I'd learned everything, I moved on and traveled Australia for a little while, ran a marketing agency from my laptop, and then came back to Canada, and another opportunity landed in my lap to work with a marketing agency. So hilariously, they had an agency just in Toronto area, and then their West Coast office was just up the road here. Okay. Yeah, in an area called Carlsbad, which is just a wild story. But so I ended up doing all their, I was the director of digital strategy. So I learned in film how to do tell a story and what that looked like. And I was just always curious about it. And then but marketing was my background. It's what I knew, it's what I'd studied. It's I just had fun with it. So anyway, turned that into more direct response stuff. So TV commercials predominantly and web stuff. And so yeah, that was my background before coming out here.
Okay. Yeah. And so Landmark was one of the catalysts for why you came out here, because you had you'd done the forum in Los Angeles or San Diego?
San Diego.
Okay, so why in California? So what brought you all the way down here to take a course to do the Landmark?
It's a great question. Okay. So some context would be useful. Okay. So I found myself in a life that looked really good on paper, and I was miserable.
Okay.
So, a bit about that, doing stuff that just wasn't aligned with me. On paper, I worked on all these big movies. I worked with celebrities. I had this big title in the job that I had previously. I did some cool stuff. Drove a nice car, had a sweet apartment. Had beautiful women around me all the time. Had a lot of friends. All this stuff that on the surface, Instagram would have loved me at that point. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's oh, this guy's got the life. Yeah. But I just felt like a total imposter.
Okay.
I felt like I was just trying to hold it all together, and that I was almost guilty for not enjoying what I had, and it was this weird cycle. And I got to a point where I was is this it? I've checked the boxes. I know what's up. Is this really all that there is?
Yeah. How old were you at that point?
So 29.
Okay.
29 at that point.
Pretty young.
Yeah, so I just turned 29. I think this is, so my birthday's in September. This is around December that I really had this moment of like, is this really it?
Okay.
Because I resented the car and I resented the apartment and I didn't like the work that I was doing. I felt really, the women that were around, they were beautiful, but I felt lonely. Like
Right.
there was no possibility for love inside of that because I wasn't being very authentic with them. Truthfully, I wasn't creating space for it. And just every area of my life, my family, my friendships, I wasn't fulfilled.
Okay. And did you think that you were pursuing, whether it be the car, the girls, and materialistic items and lifestyle, to compensate with something missing, or was that just what you thought you were supposed to have or work towards? Because that's what people on Facebook have, or that's what so and so has. So were you chasing it because of the peers or the people in your lifestyle?
I think you just get, for me anyway, I just got really caught in this is what you're supposed to do.
Okay.
You just add more zeros to the bank account. You get a nicer car. You get a better place. And I was caught very much up in the story of very misleading of when I get X, then I get to be, right? So for some people that's 6-pack abs, for some people it's $1 million, for some people it's the relationship, whatever. But when I have that, it's this arbitrary point of everything changes.
Yeah.
But you start to pull back on that and you keep moving the damn goalpost. Every time you get close to it, you just move it further down the line. So when I never shows up.
Right.
So anyway, I got to a point where I was just shit, is this really it? And what came back as a resounding answer for me was no. I have more potential. There's more inside of me. Not even just more in life, but I have more to give and show up as in the world. So I knew that I was at a place where things had to change, and I wasn't willing to take any half measures. I wanted something that would give me big momentum.
Okay.
So when I was young, I always knew that I wanted to live in California.
Okay.
Just always knew that. Not really sure how. I never had been to California previously, but I just knew that that's where I wanted to end up. So in the spirit of taking big action, I was like, you know what? Rather than, I signed up for my first personal development course, which was Landmark, the forum, and I'm like, you know what? There's a center in Toronto, but that felt like me, a half measure.
Sure.
I'm like, if I go and I actually have this breakthrough, which I was super skeptical about, it was a big leap of faith,
Sure.
truthfully, because I was a very logical, analytic, if I couldn't touch it, taste it, smell it, didn't exist guy.
Okay.
But I was like, you know what, if I'm going to do it, I want to have a clean listening. I want to have people who don't know me previously, people who are going to talk to me who I was.
Yeah.
People, if I have a breakthrough, I want to, I want that to be in an environment that's neutral.
Yeah.
And so I decided, you know what, screw it, why not? And bought a ticket, found out San Diego had a place, and I'd never been out here, so I was like...
And prior to that, you'd never been to California?
Never been to
Ever?
California.
Okay.
I mean, I flew in once briefly. I did an outdoor leadership course in Mexico,
Okay.
so we technically flew into San Diego Airport and then went across the border into Mexico very quickly. But I mean, I'd never seen it.
So, but as a young child, you knew you were going to live in California. You wanted to live in California,
Clear.
but you'd never been here.
Never been here.
Okay.
And all my friends, by the way, were like, "Oh my God, this guy just won't stop talking about it."
Right.
Since I was a kid, and it became this almost like a running joke of it was something that I was talking about that I wasn't taking action toward.
Got it.
So I was just super excited. I was going to come down here, and I knew it's time to build momentum, but I didn't expect what happened to happen at all. And so I'm there, and I go through my Landmark course. It's 3 days, and I know that I'm on the edge of something, but the course ends and I'm not there yet. I didn't have my moment. I've got oh, this feels really, really good, but I'm gonna go home and it's gonna fade, and I just knew that. So I was like, shoot, what am I gonna do? And I ended up calling the forum leader.
Okay.
And I was like, on the day off, the next day, I was like, look, would you please just talk to me for an hour? Because I don't wanna go home having built all this momentum and it just fades away. And she's like, yeah, come in. So she ended up giving me about 2 hours of her time on her day off.
Amazing.
Super awesome. And I had my moment, my Landmark moment.
Yeah.
So,
And what was the breakthrough? What was the big insight from that conversation with her?
so I'm with the Landmark instructor. It's after the course, and I'm just like, dear God, please, spend some time with me. I need to have that moment. I know that I'm on the edge of it. And I remember how terrifying that was. The idea of going back to the thing that was making me miserable without having that moment.
Okay.
And she sat there and she just did some interviewing and asked me really what I want. And so I'm listing off I want this 6-figure plus business that allows me to travel the world, is totally independent, blah blah blah. All my mind just goes this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing. And she just stopped and she looked at me and she goes, "Oh my God, Sonny, like it's right on the tip of your tongue, but you're just in your own stuff." Like, what? I'm actually like, angry at this point. I'm rarely angry. I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" And she goes, "You just want to be happy." And my body just went truth. And for the first time, 2 tears fell down my face, and the first time in 16 years that had happened. Wow. Had an event that happened to me when I was younger, and it just taught me to really not emote or like go into that space. So, but I didn't realize that I was stuck in that.
Okay. Wow.
And so in 16 years, the first time 2 tears fell down my face. And for me, that might as well have been Niagara Falls, right? Yeah. And as soon as that happened and that truth was, my stories were pushed out of the way and like the reality of the moment was there, I just got so present. I wasn't editing my sentences anymore and just like to look really good. Yeah. I wasn't just this veneer guy. I was just there. And I remember getting in the car afterward and I was like listening to music and I was really listening to the music. I wasn't 6 songs ahead trying to figure out a playlist and I went to a restaurant afterward and I just like talked to the waitress and she was like, "What's up with you?" Because I just had like this deep penetrating connection because I was just there.
And listening, and really listening.
Deep listening, yeah. And I was so interested and so that was my breakthrough. And the next morning I get up and I'm like, this is it. This is the momentum that I was looking for. So that was a big leap of faith for me to come out here, but I don't want this momentum to die. So I go into the Landmark Center again. It's now, I think, Wednesday. And they're like, "Okay." I'm like, "I want to do the advanced course right away," which is the next round. She's like, "Yeah, like you need to do that. Usually we make people wait, 8 weeks to a couple months. You need to be doing it." And I was like, "Great." Tried to book it in Toronto. It like was booked up for months, and ended up that she's like, "Well, if you're being unreasonable, we have one in LA." And I'm like, "Cool, when is it?" She goes, "Well, it's this coming weekend. This is Wednesday. It starts on Friday." Yeah. And I'm like, "Yeah, sign me up." Yeah. Totally committed. So skipped my flight home.
Wow.
Extended my car rental. Sure. Found a hotel room. Found myself up in LA.
And there's probably a dozen reasons why you could have told yourself no and gone back home.
Oh man, right? I was scared. I was like, "How am I going to make this work? Like, this doesn't make any sense." And like there was no logic to it. But I knew that like it just felt in my body this was right. So I went up, and then I had another breakthrough, and I found myself standing in front of this room, going, "I'm going to live in California. Yeah. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm like declaring in front of this audience, and to have accountability that I'm going to do this." And it was like that moment of like, "Oh my God, that's amazing!" Everybody's like super supportive. And then I remember getting out of there, and I'm like, "Oh God, how do I make this happen now?" And to be honest, that's what kickstarted my entire journey. Now, since then, I've done a ton of personal development. I've done 10-day silent meditation retreats. I've done just about every like facet you can imagine to really unlock like what's the formula for me and like what's going to get me toward that life that I want to live, including figuring out what's that vision that I want in the first place to be moving toward. And I came from a cold start. There was no personal development in my life. Okay. I came from a family which I love them to death and they're awesome. And it was a traditional Italian kind of old school family. So like it's like yell at one another and like that's I put you down to make me feel better, whether or not they know they're running that pattern. And I love them so much, but it wasn't a fit for me, right? So it wasn't like I had a head start on anything, but I just decided something's got to change now. And so that, as I went through all this personal development, so we talk about like alignment. When you start living life in alignment, synchronicity happens very quickly. Yeah. And so what that looked like was I had this camera that I had some camera gear that I had brought down just on a whim. And I was connected to this guy he's actually just up the road here, and he was running a men's retreat, a 5-day retreat for like guys who had done his online program. And I called him up on the Tuesday, the day off that you have with Landmark, and I'm like, we had talked before, and he's like, "Well, if you want to like do my event, like film it, you can come do it for free. That'd be really cool. It'd be like good for your name." I'm like, I don't feel in line with that. But when I called him up later, I was like, "I'll do your event. I'm not going to do it for free. I've got years of experience in this, but I'll do it for like a really great rate." And he's like, "Yeah, sure." So straight from my graduation ceremony, drive straight to Carlsbad here from LA back to San Diego area, and filmed this 5-day event, and it was awesome. And at the after party of that, he invited some people, because it was all men, it was a men's group, and he invited some people that are from what is my now community. And I remember I'd finished filming. I just finished up all the interviews. The party had started. I just like went back to my room, showered, dressed, felt really good about what I accomplished. And I walked out of that room, opened the door, and I was just like, I had the feeling, not the thought, but the feeling in my body of you're home. Wow. I've never experienced anything like that. I lived up here before.
Okay.
And then it was like, you're home, and the next thought that came out of my mind was, you can have whatever you want. Powerful thing to experience.
Sure.
And as soon as I had that thought, I looked up, literally brought my head up, and directly in front of me was McKenna, my girlfriend. I didn't know her at that point. So I went straight, I just saw her and I was like, oh wow, like that. It was just like a recognition, and I went straight over. And she gave me the cold shoulder for a little while, and I chased her around the party eventually, like a 4-year-old, and eventually she caught me.
That's amazing.
And so that was my initiation into here, and then the transformation really continued, because the breakthrough is powerful.
Yeah.
But it's the consistency that makes that, like, grounds that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like when somebody goes to like a Tony Robbins and they're like, rah or whatever. I just use him. He's wonderful, just as an example.
Sure.
Somebody goes and walks out of like Unleash the Power Within. They're like, this is so amazing. But if they don't take the action, then it doesn't ground into their life. That breakthrough becomes like, it's not having impact in their life. So I took it really seriously. Of like, I now have this compelling reason to be here. My girlfriend, and then very quickly I met this community, and I made incredible friends that I'm super connected with, and it's gorgeous here, and I just knew I was home. I had that feeling. Wow. So then it became a story of like, what am I committed to? And I was committed to making this real. And so it was like, let's go through the US to Canada, or Canada to US visa stuff, and that was a big lesson, surrender, and anyway, I could go on and on, but it was really, really an amazing transformation once I decided to do it.
And that's the key word there is to make that decision, saying, my life as it is right now is not working the way I want it to. Mm-hmm. And I can keep trying to go at it however I am. I mean, first it takes you have to be able to recognize, as you said before, humility. You have to be able to recognize, like, okay, this isn't working, and I don't know if I know how to change this, but I do know that I'm not 100% happy. Mm-hmm. I'm not fulfilled. And for those that dare to live a greater life, a more fulfilled, more epic life than they currently are living, then they have to choose. And when they choose, they got to be committed, because you're right, whether it be Tony Robbins, whether it be Landmark, whether it be Men's Week, I mean, there's so many programs and courses out there. Mm-hmm. Until you decide, no, this is going to be my reality. I'm going to create my life. Until you make that decision and you jump in both feet first, wholeheartedly, it's just not going to happen. And I just, you coming out here, and when we met at Archangel Academy, and you shared with me how you made that decision, and you didn't know how you were going to make it work, but you just did it.
Yeah.
And since making that decision, the things that have aligned for you are incredible. And I can relate on a personal level, just with making a decision that I don't want to do what I've been doing for the past 20 years, and I don't know what it is I'm going to do next, but I do know that it's going to involve, spending time with my friends, sharing stories, creating every day, and transitioning out of that, and then whatever's coming to me is going to come to me. And since making that decision, from Giovanni's event, where I've met you and Shauna and Jason Gaynard and all these other amazing people, things just start flowing into your life. And I think for somebody out there who, like you, is, or like, you were on that edge and you want to make that next move, you want to make that jump, it's like your feet are at the end of the diving board and you want to. If people only knew that once you take that leap, once you take that dive, the universe just supports it. And it's just such an incredible feeling. Like, as things start to flow for you and synchronicity just happened and took over, every moment is just every moment, every person, and every conversation that supports that dream and vision is just like the wind in your wings, or whatever metaphor, analogy, it just reaffirms that you're on the path, and it makes you feel so good. And I listen to your life and what you're doing right now, and I'm, I don't say this often, but like I'm envious, but in a positive way, because to be honest, I hope to be sharing a very similar story to you this time next year. from California somewhere, because I see why you want to be out here, and it totally, the community and the lifestyle and this environment absolutely supports, I think, the state of mind and where you were at and what it is you're trying to create. And I'm happy for you. I mean, this is incredible, and just the way things are. I mean, the way things are coming together for you is inspiring, and it motivates me because it makes me think. And I was telling Zach on the way down, it's like what Sonny's doing right now is what I want to do. Like, just say, screw it, I'm in, I'm all in, and I'll figure it out. And yeah, man, it's great to hear your story and see all that you're doing. So, okay, so you transitioned out of that career, and now you're now sharing your story, your knowledge, your lessons and whatnot with people who also want to make that change. So you're now doing one-to-one coaching. You're now creating I guess, is it a program, or is it?
Yeah, great question. So when I came out here, I started a video production company, and I think what you were speaking to just a moment ago is alignment. And it's like if you're living from a place of alignment, that's when synchronicity shows up. Yeah. In my experience. And when you're not, things feel really hard, really contracting, as opposed to expansive. Actually, a way that I often make decisions is like when I feel it, and not think it, but when I feel it in my body, like light or heavy. Yeah. Does meeting up with Zark for this interview feel light or heavy? Yeah. Really light, or does my body contract and I'm like, yeah, I'll do it if I have. Like, no, absolutely not. So I do that as often as possible. Like doing taxes never feels great. But
that's so simple. It's so simple, but you have to just trust your own intuition.
Yeah.
But it is that easy. Just light or heavy, and if it's so simple and brilliant and absolutely right. Sorry, I just had to interject there because I just relate that to some of the decision-making process that I have to make, and if it was just that simple, light heavy, life would just be so much more. Just less complex.
It is, it is, and that's the beauty of it. It's like we want to complicate it. So many, at least this has been my lesson, is that so many of the amazing truths of the universe are simple. So simple that we call them we are like, it can't be that easy. We want to make it more difficult. We want the 932 step process on like exactly how to do it. Reality is, if it feels contractive and you don't want to do it, you don't do it. Right. You just have to listen to that and train yourself to notice, because your body knows what you want. Totally. There's a saying that I kind of live by, and it's like your ego, all its job is to make you safe. That's all it wants to do. But your soul, that thing which you're here to do, and it knows it, will just as soon push you off the edge because it knows you're going to fly. Yeah. But your ego just wants you to be safe and comfortable and stay here. And by the way, you got to love that too. It serves a purpose. That's why it's a part of you. And your soul knows better. So I just choose to go with the soul. And so what I do now is I help successful men essentially feel alive again. So people who have checked those boxes, maybe they were they're high achievers in any area. Typically high achievers are in one area, and they're like, all right, so I've got the $1 million business, or I'm on the way to that. And I thought that this is where I would feel happiness and fulfillment and really enjoy my life. And it's just different problems or different stuff. Is this really it?
Yeah, right.
Or there's the guy who was I'm not really, I want that incredible epic love in my life, but I'm not really great with women, so I'm going to go to the gym and just work out like crazy and get in really good shape, and then they'll just come to me, because that's how it happens, right? Because we get told these stories, right? There's all these different archetypes of if I do this, then I get this, but the reality is quite often the inverse. And so one of the big lessons that I learned was presence and vulnerability. And if you can, and what a challenge as a man, by the way, especially a high achieving man. Yep. Super challenging to live in that space.
Oh yeah.
But for me, that's been what gave me space. When I met my girlfriend McKenna, rather than be the smooth, slick talking guy that I had been, in previous time, I just showed up really vulnerably. And not vulnerably sharing all my stuff and all that, but I was just rather than run a game or do a line, it was we sat on this bed and I was I gotta say, I'm really attracted to you, and I don't know how I'm gonna live here or stay here, but I need to know if this is a one-way street or not. That for me, that was pouring my heart out, right. And I was and vulnerability is the fear that you might get rebuked or whatever. Is standing there oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, and she was no, me showing up that way allowed her to drop her guard, and she got to be oh no, I get that, it's not a one-way street. cool, can I get your number? And then we, have turned it into like a really epic thing. But that lesson, though I just described it in a relationship, can be applied to so many different areas of your life. Like
Absolutely.
your business partners, your friendships, if you have the courage to go there and really show somebody who you are, not the veneer of who you're trying to be.
Check your ego and just put it out there. And,
So I believe really strongly, like everything that I do is an expression of more is possible. Right, so I have a video podcast that I'll be launching. I have coaching that I do with men. I have even events that I facilitate around here, or like live experiences I'll be doing for my business. They're all an expression of like, you think this much is your limit and more is possible. I might not make it this big immediately, but I might.
Yeah.
But I think that's the biggest gift you can give to somebody.
Absolutely.
If you just expand what's possible in their income, what's possible in their day-to-day gratitude and fulfillment, what's possible for them in relationship, whatever that thing that's like really gnawing at them is, like, what a gift. So the people who I can best serve, so just back up to that. So like the people that I find that I can best serve are men who are successful, high achievers in some area, but they're not, they're lacking in some area. Like maybe their relationship's amazing, but maybe their business is amazing, but their relationship with their wife isn't really wonderful because they put so much energy into that, or their health is off.
So focused on making money that they're 45 and rich, and their body is bankrupt. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they're making decisions from here, not from here. Right. And I think your body just knows what's up. So I know what that's like, to have the life that looks good on paper and be like, what? Like, I thought that if I did all these things, I got the success, I got the notoriety, I've got the women, the beautiful women, I've got all the stuff, like the external validation of this. Why am I upset? Or why am I not fulfilled? And so people who have that burning desire, that just know there's more inside of them, there's more potential, and they're willing to have the humility to go, you know what I did really worked for me from here to here, and I'm here now, but I know it's not going to work for me from where I am to where I want to go. Yeah. And so that's what I help men do, really figure out what makes them come alive. We create that epic vision that's going to pull them toward action, as opposed to everything feeling like a push, like I got to do this. Right. We take a look at their environment, we take a look at how we can support them in what they're doing, habits, routines, practices, what books are going to be great for you, what's like inspiration that could really keep you motivated. And then I'm there usually in my one-on-one capacity with people to be like, I'm here for you, whether it's through Voxer or a phone call, to be like, Zark, you're having a bad day, and you like give me a call or you give me a Voxer, and I'm just like, hey man, I'm here for you. Like, I am a stand for you doing what you're up against. Because if you do something that's like really dear to your heart, that's when all your resistance comes up. Yeah. When you're doing something that's not aligned for you, there's no resistance because your heart's not in it, right? There can be frustrations and like setbacks and challenges. But when it's really the thing you want to be doing, your stuff comes up. And what a beautiful opportunity to like take a look at what those are and remove them. And I have whole processes of how we do that. And then you get to live an unencumbered life. Like, oh, cool, you just get to be here, having a great interview with a friend and in the moment.
And just being unconstrained to just creating your life.
Yeah, and then going towards where you really want to go, and maybe for the first time ever, really mapping out what that is or where that is. Most people will like do that in their business, or they'll do that in their workout regime. They'll do that, all over the place, but they don't really stop to think where that is for them and like the bigger picture of their life and what they're wanting to create and what their legacy is going to be and what they want to be known for. And
and that's one of the big things that those questions of what am I here for, what's my purpose, and what do I want to be remembered for? Like after I'm gone, what did I create? When you start looking at your life from that lens, asking yourself those questions, everything changes, because you could have the car, the girls, the house, the watch, whatever it may be, but that's not going to make you fulfilled on a significant level. But being a coach and knowing that those hours and the time that you spend with your clients or your friends, you have altered their future. You've altered their future, you've given them more happiness, you've probably extended their life. Yeah. And it is such an incredible gift to be able to be that for someone. With my work with Landmark, knowing that my brother's wife did the forum, and knowing that my unborn nephew's life will be forever changed because Amanda and I had this amazing conversation, and I allowed her to see that a different career is possible for her. And she took the forum and got all these amazing, insights and revelations out of it. Knowing that I could play a part in benefiting my nephew's future is such a gift. Like, I mean, how could you not do it, right? So,
the ripple is huge, right? So it's like we're talking a lot about Landmark here because it was, I think, both of our first access to that being, and like that work is powerful. And
what are some of the other courses or programs you've done? Because you said you did a bunch of work, courses, programs, and I want to learn it all. I want to take all there is out there to better understand, because now that you are providing tools and structure and designing a program for clients, like, where did you get your knowledge and information from? Like, what else have you, like, share that with me. What did you learn? Who did you learn from? What did
it's a great question. So, so I hit the ground running. Once I had that breakthrough and I was really clear on that momentum, and I instantly met the woman, literally the woman of my dreams, the one that I knew, like, again, knowing I was going to live in California, I knew what my eventual life would look like.
Okay.
So like when I saw her, it was like, my body was like, what the heck? It was like a remembering. So like there's been a lot of that remembering for me. So it happening in my journey, and like, I don't know if you want to go into like past life stuff, like I find that really interesting. Like, you know, if you believe in reincarnation, which I do, it might not fit everybody, but there's the idea that like you've kind of been here before, you've done this kind of work, there's a familiarity to it, you pick it up really easily or really quickly. So like when I started doing this work, being like personal development, I took very quickly. Okay. And I was committed. I was like 100%. I'm like, I see that even after having this breakthrough, there's a lot more crap in the way that's going to stop me from having this goal that I want to have. And when I decided to move here, and I was committed to that, everything else became just action. You know, it wasn't like I didn't end up making more decisions. The decision was made. Yeah. So when something would come up that would be an obstacle to that, I'm like, I get that that's a story. I get that that's limiting me, and I need to get through this quickly. So I did Vipassana, which is a 10-day silent meditation retreat.
Yeah, you told me about that.
Really turning inward and like listening to my body, which I used to talk about myself being really body blind because I was so like up here all the time that like your body's sending you signals. Like I used to eat food that was just not supportive of my body, and like my body would feel like really crappy, but I didn't, you know, I had literal inflammation, I was overweight, I couldn't drop all kinds of stuff. As soon as I started listening to it, things changed. I mean, when I came out of Landmark, had my first breakthrough, I lost about 15 pounds over the next 7 days doing nothing. Wow. So like your body literally is so intelligent, it holds on to stuff. Sure. So when I was holding on to like emotional stuff, couldn't access that place, it was just my body held it. Yeah,
because when you're stressed, your cortisol levels in, your mental state obviously affects your body, regardless of how you're dieting or how much cardio you're doing. Positive state of mind makes a huge impact. I mean, 15 pounds in a week, not doing anything.
Going from you remember that, like you're in a seminar room for like whatever 12 hours some odd or more a day, and then you like rush to get food with crappy food, whichever near that place, and then you like go to your hotel, you wake up in the morning, do it again, and then I went straight to the advanced course, did it again. It wasn't like I like changed my diet and I was all of a sudden, you know, like running 3 miles every day. Not at all. It was just a literal emotional weight that fell off of my body when I was willing to acknowledge, like, oh yeah, that's been there and I haven't looked at it, and got out of the way of my own stories around that stuff. So Vipassana was really big. The Landmark work was really big. I've done a few other programs around here. All of them, what I find is this: you can get to, there's a lot of ways to have your first access. And I think that's one of the most important pieces to go, because that'll give you the humility. That'll be like, oh, maybe I don't know the answer. Maybe and you start to look at, am I committed to being right, or am I committed to the life that I'm dreaming of? Yeah. So when you can have that first little opening of humility, then the whole world becomes possible for you. It's possible for everybody, but it's a mental shift of like, oh wow, there's actually something more, beyond the sunglasses that I've been wearing. Right. So there's like hundreds of modalities of stuff. I've done a fair bit of energy work here. Literal like moving of energy stuff, very, very woo stuff. Okay. Meditation's been a big part of my life. Yeah, so meditation's something that I'm really curious about, and every brilliant, inspiring, successful person that I admire swears by meditation. So how important, like, what is it, a daily thing for you? Is it something that, how committed are you to meditation? Great question. So like, as far as you asked, like, what is it that I do, or what is it that I've done since being out here? So like, it runs the gamut. So like, Landmark was my access to it. I've done other personal development stuff that was similar to that. I've done like the 10-day silent meditation, which is Vipassana. I've done, plant medicine. I've done like all kinds of different stuff to lead me here. It was kind of like an energy work. It was like picking pieces of like trying different stuff out and going like, if you're really in a place of possibility with no preconception, it's like, let's try some stuff,
sure.
you know? Especially as somebody who used to be like, if I can't touch it, taste or just smell it, that doesn't exist. But I tried it all out, figured out what worked for me. Meditation was something that stuck.
Okay.
So my commitment to that was the 10-day one was challenging. 10-day silent meditation was probably the most challenging thing I've ever done in my life.
Man, when you go in, you go all in. Like, that's no joke. Wow.
Man, yeah.
Back-to-back landmark, 10-day silent meditation. That's just moving to California. I love that. I mean, I admire it.
I'm here to have an epic life and show other people that they get to have an epic life.
Yeah,
like, I don't do half measures. So, so the 10-day was intense, really powerful. I'll do that again at some point, but that's like a huge overhaul that I don't feel that I need at this point. I'm pretty aligned. So what I've found useful is I do 30 minutes of meditation every single night. I might miss 1 day a week, which I'll allow, but I never miss 2 in a row.
Okay.
And what that does for me is it makes it so I don't get off center very easily.
Okay.
So like if I have a problem if I have a challenge in my business, or if something comes up with a friend group, or like I have a disappointment, something I thought was going to come through that didn't. If I've been meditating and I'm in the practice of that, I'm just like, cool. I'm like, this is like a circumstance, like we're gonna get through it. Like I can move forward with a much more powerful, present, inspired kind of attitude. If I haven't been meditating, and I tried this for a little while, I was actually like split testing it, I get off really easily.
Okay.
I mean, not really easily, but like much more easily. So it's like I'm quicker to like defeatism, or I'm quicker to, oh my God, is this really going to work? A lot of, like you said, I go all in on stuff. A lot of the times I don't know if I'm standing on a diving board, I don't know if there's water in the pool that I'm about to jump into. And I really have to have that certainty to be able to go fully into that. And meditation is something I found that really helps me stay centered.
Okay.
Also getting off caffeine, which was a hard one to give up. Completely off of it, minus, I mean, if I have a decaf, there's a little bit in that just because I enjoy coffee shops. But yeah, getting off that was another thing. As you get like more and more in touch with your body, and I think meditation really helps you with that, and you listen to what's going on, you recognize the patterns.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, oh yeah, when I drink coffee, I'm like kind of like a little jittery for an hour, and then I have a few hours of good work, and then I'm like kind of down, or I'm more easily like put into anger or like frustration or whatever. So again, initially it's like big shifts, big 20-degree shifts from like I saw the world this way to now I see it this way, and then past that breakthrough, or it tends to be like 3 degrees and 2 degrees and a quarter of a degree, but it's like over a long distance, that's like changing where you end up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the beauty of life. And keep evolving and changing, and like you said, when living in alignment, you set your goal, you know where you want to be, and then you take course. Mm-hmm. And so with the how important is health, diet, training? Because you lost 15 pounds. Mm-hmm. Now, was weight or eating well, training, was that anything that you'd ever struggled with before? Or is just
oh my God. Yeah, man. So I'm, what am I? I'm like 5'10" and a half, 5'11" height-wise, and I would swing between 150 pounds to almost 200 pounds. So like I was extreme in that I would do like hydroxy cut when I was in high school. I was like doing hydroxy cut and like practically starving myself. And I would get down to like 150 pounds, not realizing that I was like, starving my body. Like all my muscle was gone. That's a great part of it. So I was like, then I would go on weight gainer shakes and I would like get really, really big. My body likes to put on muscle, but I could never find that middle ground of like, I'm in great shape and I'm cut. Like I'm thin. I'm not just like round and like bulky. And so I'd done that, a few times in my life. And this kind of comes back to dropping the emotional stuff. Once I like broke into that and was able to like look at it and like just give some love to myself as opposed to being so hard on myself all the time, because I had some body dysmorphia issues that I didn't know that I had. Okay. So I actually saw somebody who was like heavier in the mirror than they were. And I used to eat, it was extremes. It was like super, 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 super healthy. But though misguided, I really didn't know much about health at that point. Or it was like McDonald's and eating out and just like working out a lot and thinking calories would help out. And so when I came out here, my girlfriend was actually pretty instrumental in just like showing me the ways of like eating organic and cooking at home more often than eating out. And that was a habit that I'd gotten into when I started making more money. I was just eating out more often in my job previously in Canada. So anyway, yeah, I've now switched over to like I work out 2-ish, maybe 3 days a week if possible. Sometimes 1, but I try to move my body even if I'm not like working out.
Right.
But nothing really intense, more like functional movement stuff. I really want to feel good in my body. Meditation's really great for it. And I eat pretty much, at least at home, about 95% organic.
Okay.
Make my own food, just have like green shakes in the morning. Like another switch that was really powerful for me was going from, going from a diet being something where I was restricted, like I can't have this, to, what do I want to put in my body that'll support it?
Right.
Very different perspective, right? Like I want to feel good. I want, to feel like mentally clear. I want to feel not inflamed, just like normal. So I stopped putting in the caffeine. I stopped putting in the sodas. I stopped putting in the crappy takeout food. I stopped putting that stuff in, and I'll indulge every now and again. But like that shift was tremendous. Now it's like, does this, and it's like this in all life, does this support what I want?
Right.
And I can indulge when I feel that I've like earned it or when I'd like to, but if it doesn't support that, I tend to shy away from it. Very big shift for me.
Got it. Yeah, and again, that's the thing. It's you can have your goal and you can have your structure and your plan. You could be doing everything, mentally that you should be doing, but absolutely physically, you have to look at it from the overall totality of it, where eating, like you said, the food that supports your energy. I do love coffee, but I get the whole peaks and up and down, and sometimes you're almost overstimulated. But definitely eating organic, eating healthy, a diet that supports the energy that you're exuding, and also the focus and the clarity that you need. And just like you, where you see the chubby kid in the mirror, I see the skinny kid in the mirror, because for me, I never played sports, always got picked on, so it was always like, oh, we need to work out. So I've been brainwashed to think, oh, I gotta have 300 grams of protein, steak, chicken, turkey, eating all this protein just so I can, be muscular and be that guy, right? And obviously the consumption of meat that us humans, are the strain that we're putting on the planet, the way that we're slaughtering these genetically modified animals, it's just crazy. So I'm trying something different with cutting out meat, cutting out animal protein, still eating fish and eggs, trying to, eat a more plant-based diet. And I'm about a month into it, so I can't say I've had like a major breakthrough with that yet. But I'm open to it, because you hear when I've heard people say or share their experience that they can eat a plant-based diet, still be strong, still have energy, have more focus and more clarity than ever before. I'm like, Sonny,
oh my gosh, yeah.
Yoga?
I don't really practice yoga. It may be something that I incorporate at some point.
Yeah.
I've played around with it. There's great yoga studios here. My girlfriend's really into that.
Okay.
I will go occasionally with her, but it's not a top priority for me, at least at this point.
Yeah.
And there's seasons in life, right?
Yeah.
So the season that I'm in right now is really like, getting more one-on-one clients, being able to spread this work, getting this out to more people, and that's where my excitement is. Okay. So as long as I keep my body supported by moving, a couple of times a week and maybe taking daily walks or something like that. Yeah. That's kind of my exercise and my focus right now. But eventually, absolutely. It's like, where's my excitement? Right now, it's like sharing this work. And so what am I doing to support that? And that's kind of like my goal for, say 3-month stints. Yeah. It's just really useful to focus your energy and make a bunch of, a lot of progress in one area, as opposed to like a millimeter of progress in every area. Okay. At least that's my way of thinking about it. So I like to really focus in and make significant progress there. And then when I feel good about where this place is, then I might move this one. Okay. And eventually what you end up doing is, people might say that's not balanced, but what you do is when you start to remedy or fix these things or get them into alignment where you feel good, then you're just doing small maintenance and you're actually very in balance. And you get to you're supporting your body and you feel good about the food that you're eating and you have a great relationship and your friends are great. So when you have to get away from work, you can go feel connected and fill your cup up, et cetera, et cetera. And then you're super able to be really effective inside of that area that you're focusing on.
Because everything's aligned.
Absolutely.
Everything's aligned. So you're on this new path, shifted, recently took place. Obviously, who Sonny was 2 years ago, who you are today, and who you will be in a few years. Where do you see this going? Who is the Sonny 3-4 years from now? Like, where's this path going?
That's a great question. So preface it with saying we're always evolving, and I like give myself the permission to change direction if I feel good about that. I think it's like when you get too staunch about like this is how it has to look, that like basically the universe can't give you, it might be bringing stuff to you, but if you're like, no, it has to look exactly this way, you might not get a chance to like really receive all that is coming to you or trying to. So right now, what this looks like is I'm really committed to expanding this work and like helping men who are trapped, and it'll expand past men eventually, but right now it's like helping men who are trapped in that paradigm of like, checked all the boxes, but I'm unhappy, like really showing them, because when it was for me, I didn't have a model of that. There was nobody that I could look to that like was living this aligned, conscious, smart, so I was just like fumbling around trying to figure it out. So being that mentor essentially to people was really powerful for me, or like feels really good. And also the one-on-one work that I do is amazing. I'll be opening up a group program also to make it a little bit more accessible to a wider number of people, and eventually a talk show.
Amazing.
So not
awesome.
just a video podcast. I love this, but I was always really inspired by Oprah.
Okay.
Even though I didn't watch her show very often, I wasn't really the demographic she was going after. She had that, like, her bigger vision, like I said that mine is more as possible, like her bigger vision was around like basically raising consciousness of the planet, helping people see in her own way that more is possible and that they can change their circumstance and empowering them. And what I like about the talk show idea, though it would probably be online, is like, imagine you and I are having a conversation as two men who are like, have had our own breakthroughs, and in a couple of years when you're living here, you and I might be talking about something, and I can look to the audience and be like, are they with me?
Right.
You know what I mean? Are they getting this? Because the curse of knowledge is that once you learn something, you like forget what it's like to beforehand, right? So like, I love that. I love being able to include them and just be like, yeah, like, is this landing or is it over their head? Or are they super excited and expanding upon that? Because it's like allowing them to follow their excitements. I think that's, if there's one takeaway about like listening to your body, it's like, where do you feel excited and follow that, right? It's like, So anyway, that's kind of the bigger vision is like, I'm helping more and more people. I'm speaking on more and more stages. I'm inspiring more and more people with that. Selfishly, it feels great for me to be able to spread that message, and it's doing a great thing in the world. And the talk show is just another extension of that. It's like, who do like you're doing right now, like who's fun and interesting that I want to experience and like get a conversation with and know a little more about. So like solves, fills your cup up, and it's like doing a better, bigger thing in the world. And I think this is going to be part of my legacy moving forward.
That's amazing. Cool. Well, I thank you for supporting my talk show, or whatever you want to call it. Again, everything happens for a reason. I'm so glad I went to that event, Giovanni's Archangel Academy, and the way we met your lovely girlfriend, and even though we don't really know each other well, I feel like I've known you for a very long time. And definitely after today, I definitely know you a lot better. But I also want to thank you for the opportunity to help me as well, because so much of what you've said, I totally relate to. Like when you're sharing your story, I honestly feel like I'm listening to myself, and I'm excited to get started with you. We have our call set up in September, and like I said, your story is inspiring. What you're doing, I'm envious of and happy for you, and I think you're gonna see me in California sooner than 2 years. I definitely think 2018 is the year I'm gonna make it happen.
Cool.
Yeah.
Firstly, thank you. I really appreciate that. I really receive all that you shared, and it's awesome to hear, and it's exactly what I'm hoping for. It's like to really help people align to what it is that they do. Like what a gift. And also, I just want to let you know that it's I feel, by the way, super aligned with you and what you're doing, and it's possible for you.
Totally.
Very few people get told that. Like their dream. Like most people are like, oh, you tell your family or whatever, hey, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to leave this career to start something that I really am passionate about, or whatever. And the first thing that happens is they go, are you sure? Well, what about this? And it becomes like a protection play. And I'm just here to stand for like, what you want is totally possible. So just know that that's here, and I'm super happy to support you in any way that I can.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Cool.
Appreciate it.
Awesome, dude. Cool.
Let's go fly the drone.
Yeah.